All right, everybody. Welcome to Metafide Spaces. It's Thursday, May 29th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, wherever you're at in the world. We hope you're doing great. Thanks for being here with us. Um, with us, we have Roaming Crypto, one of our trusty mods, and Serge Bigworm Tutora. So I want to thank you all for showing up and everybody that will listen to this later. How you doing today, Serge? Worm?
Yeah, Frank, I'm doing good. I got for those of you who met Coco, my dog, she's kind of whining here in the background right here. So I may go pausing, I mean on mute and then off mute, but otherwise I'm good. Wet up here in the Northeast.
Yeah, we're dealing with some thunderstorms here too. You might hear 'em while I'm doing this. I'm uh I'm I'm speaking from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina right now, and it's nice. It's warm out, but it's raining, so hopefully it'll pass through. But yeah, there's actually a lot going on. Just give everybody the state of the market. You got Bitcoin today bouncing around the 105, 106 threshold, and everybody's wondering like what's going on because you got JD Vance out there at BTC 2025, along with our very own Matt Cross. He's out there as well, doing a great job. A couple big things also, uh, you know, Metafide just closed or just fully funded its seed round. We may actually take extra from some strategics around there, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal for us today because we're officially oversubscribed at this point for the round. So big things are happening for us. It's a great time for the company. Everybody's doing a lot of good work. But back to the market for a second, actually, because our oh no, I think it might have just happened. Oh no, okay. So one of our friends, advisors, customers, and investors, Ed McCormick from D Chain Capital, called my attention to something earlier in the week, and we've been watching it kind of like a boxing match where there's on hyperdash.info, we're following a position on BTC where one of the whales has opened up a bunch of positions and has been aggressively chasing their losses where they've been trying to long BTC and seemingly picking the exact wrong entry point for the market as it goes. But right now, there's a position size of 2,636 Bitcoin longed at 40x leverage for a total position value of 280 million. Currently unrealized P&L of minus 5 million. And if that 2,600 BTC gets liquidated, then I think the floor goes down to maybe 102, 101, something like that. So it's a terrible move. Like, you don't throw bad money after good, and definitely not bad money after bad. This whale insists, and the liquidation price is 105,060 or 105,061, which is it got dangerously close a few minutes ago where it was 105 for something. And so yeah, it's not looking great for whoever that is, but if that winds up getting kicked over, then the floor for BTC probably drops a little bit more. And we keep saying this, Worm, but every everybody out there that treats this like gambling
Hmm.
is sort of giving this space a bad name. Like, just without thinking, without some analysis, without some reasoning behind what you're doing,
Yep.
like, it's detrimental to the health of the space, and this is definitely not helping it.
Yeah, I think that I mean it's interesting that you have this paradox of like you have good news happening out there with Bitcoin. You got the Vice President of the United States showing up at BTC Vegas. You also, which we didn't mention yet, just globally, I read today that the Bybit earned EU approval, and you don't see many approvals by EU. EU's been kind of like the skittish, actor kind of globally. You don't see a lot of approvals by them. That's also really good news on a global level. But I think what's driving it down, at least from what I could see, is a lot of profit taking, and there's probably a lot of like triggers at this liquidity level. And remember, a lot of these whales actually want this to happen, right? They want to see kind of these triggers to happen so that can create these lower price points, so they can go in and kind of create a sale, if you would, and buy it up. So just understand that if that's happening at that level, then it probably means you shouldn't sell your own individual shares.
Yeah, those European bankers, they gotta book some gains, and their overall economy is not doing great. You have to be able to get to Saint Tropez and Monaco somehow. Like you can't just go there on a banker's salary. I mean, you gotta have some kind of bonuses to get down there and flex with everybody else's money. So it's they got to do something. So I could see some profit taking making some sense for those
Yeah,
folks.
they need a bigger boat.
Yeah. Yep. I mean that's that's the deal. It's just one of those things where like looking at what's going on in our space, you would think that people would understand to be a little more disciplined, take a little bit of a longer term outlook on things, and sort of build wealth instead of playing chicken with certain death, which is what this is. So hopefully this. I mean, I don't even know if I hope for this person to get out of the position. Almost like I feel like if they get liquidated, it's kind of like when you tell your kid not to reach onto a hot stove and they keep trying to do it. It's just like at some point they have to learn, right? Like, or, and you don't let them get burned, but at the same time, like somebody needs to give them a quick scare and just be like, hey, like knock that off. Like that's not great for anybody if you get 2,600 BTC like dumped out onto the open market. So,
Yeah, I mean,
which
we
if
all
it happens, Michael Saylor or one of the ETFs is going to just try to buy them right up anyway. But
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this stuff is like it always happens in multiple markets. And you used to live in Greenwich, Connecticut, right? And
yep, yep,
there was a hedge fund not too. It was actually in Greenwich named Amarath. Remember Amarath? They
yep, yep,
they had that building that was kind of shaped like a little bit like a trapezoid. Um,
yeah.
and there was that trader that where natural gas prices were like getting really expensive. He made a really huge leverage bet, and it was so big he took down the whole hedge fund and like literally made
I remember that.
and
I actually
right
remember that.
and then like basically a few months after that trade, there was a big red for lease sign on the building.
Yeah, yeah.
These people are just
You
always
know,
gonna exist no matter what the asset class is. It's just the, degenerates with a whole lot more money.
I mean, if you compare and contrast that though with another fund from the same neighborhood,
Mhm.
Point 72.
Yeah.
The way they've approached it is like something that people should probably pay attention to, right?
Mhm.
Where they're going through being super disciplined. By the way, shout out to the guys at Point 72.
Yeah.
My soccer team that we had at Social Flow, they were our arch nemesis. One of us finished in the top of the league, and actually, before we get into it, I just want to point out that Worm here has made the greatest play I've ever seen in on the soccer field. I've never. It's my literal favorite thing that I've ever seen happen on the play.
I was
Uh,
I was waiting for how many spaces would go by before you tell the story. No, go on.
yeah, well, it's coming out now, so
Yeah, right.
we're gonna take a little detour for 2 minutes,
Yeah,
but
yeah. All
I
right.
have to set the stage. So this is this is a men's league at Chelsea Piers in Stanford, and it's a really competitive league. Basically, if you're a finance guy or whatever, and these some of these guys played professional soccer or Division 1 soccer. I wound up just getting scooped up as a goalie, and it was intense, and Serge could vouch for that. Like these guys were no joke at soccer. Where I guess the guy on the other team was on the game that you showed up. Their guy on the right wing was from Chelsea, like not Chelsea Piers, but Chelsea FC, right?
Can I just
And
interject here for a second? Like
yeah,
a little bit of backstory. Like Frank, Frank positioned this to me as just a bunch of guys like after work, you know, fucking around playing soccer. Okay, and so there's a couple things wrong with this scenario. One is clearly false advertising in terms of what to expect.
I just left out some details. I
Right.
didn't say anything
Right.
untrue.
The other thing is Frank profiled me as an Italian American and automatically assumed that I knew how to play soccer. I never played a soccer game like in my life. I know that's embarrassing as an Italian American, but I was more of a nerd than an athlete. So those two things coming in, just everyone needs to know that part of the story before I got recruited to play with these gentlemen.
Okay, so just imagine a bunch of ex-professional soccer players all amped up, competing really hard to try to like win an important game. And Serge gets out there, and so we're in the game. The game's a close game. It's an indoor game, but it's not one of the ones with the boards. So there's actually an out of bounds and stuff like that. And and there's a change in possession. So the ref gives the ball to the other team. It's actually it was a free kick. So the other team is a free kick on the other side of the field, and Serge subs in off of the sideline, but everybody was kind of in transition and resetting up, and Serge gets on the field and he sees the ball open and nobody's got possession of it, and so he runs all the way across the field as this guy's about ready to take a free kick and kicks the ball out of bounds so he can't get to it. It was like it was immediately it almost turned into a bench clearing brawl, and the referee was offended for a second too. and and they were about to give Serge a red card for that until he realized, until one of the guys was like, no, he's brand new. He's never, because they didn't believe you'd bring someone who
He's
had
a dumb
never
shit. He
played
doesn't know
soccer into
anything.
that thing. Yeah. What, what were you gonna say, man?
Oh yeah, it's like, oh yeah, he's a dumb shit. He doesn't know anything. So I mean, the lesson learned is try to stretch yourself beyond your comfort zone, because that was definitely me trying to play with
Yeah.
these guys and trying not to get hurt, killed, or embarrassed. But unfortunately, I was tremendously embarrassed playing with these guys.
Oh, and so everybody's like all caught up in how offensive it was, and I saw you run. I knew exactly what's going to happen as soon as you got about a quarter way across the field, and I'm like, no, I'm in the goal trying to defend the free kick, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
just let it go, and then he kicks it out of bounds,
Uh,
and everybody else gets all amped. It's like you knocked a hornet's nest off of a tree, but I couldn't get into it because I was bent over laughing so hard that I thought I hurt myself. That's how ridiculous it was. But all right, okay. So back to the issue at hand
oh,
here. Using AI in financial markets and why it's important as a topic of discussion. But thank you for that, Serge. It's one of the best
well,
memories
I
I've
mean,
had playing.
I'm sure it lives rent free in your head, and now it lives rent free in everybody's head. That's
Yeah,
just
I
on
wish
on
you
it.
could have also. I wish I recorded that. I mean, that would have been the only thing that would be better. But yeah. So okay, so taking a step back, the concept of applying AI to financial markets and why it's important. First of all, the whole world is moving in the direction of using AI. What that means, we're going to just define in a second. But trying to find some way to isolate patterns into something that's actionable, a way that you can trade on them, and a way that you can sort of use the signal to your benefit while you're involved in the financial markets, right? And there's a couple different ways. People are using large language models to try to figure out something approximate to sentiment and predict maybe what might come out, in terms of market sentiment. What we do here at Metafide mostly, we do have a LLM play, and it helps with guidance and strategy, but the actionable piece that we do is from neural networks, specifically temporal convolutional neural networks, recurrent neural networks, um, convolutional neural networks, and we use a bunch of time series data in, and then we push that through a bunch of models. Long short term memory, gated recurrent units, convolutional long short term. We use a bunch of different models, and then they're all competing to be the most accurate at predicting the next interval. So if you have a time series of ticks in a trade that comes through, what is the most likely trade that's going to come through next, given all that you can feed it into the model. And and those things compete, and we have some specific AI that we've written also that sits on top of those models and chooses the model that's most likely to perform best in the next iteration. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on that because that's our secret sauce, but it works really well. It's very accurate, and it allows us to arbitrage the market in such a way so that we seem to be the only ones out there doing it. I imagine people start to catch up, in the next couple of years here, but we have a really great way to go about it, and essentially, you know, if you're applying that to the market and you can outperform some of the other models, then you can predict a little bit higher of a high and a little bit lower of a low and get more precise on finding the space between the way the market oscillates, and you can sort of trade in there much better. And it doesn't necessarily need to be intrasecond or high frequency. Sometimes you're looking at a few minutes, and sometimes you're trying to figure out like what the most likely interval for the yield is going to be. But you apply that to the process over and over again, and you get these compounding yields that outperform um, other ways of doing it, right? And so everybody's in this arms race right now in finance to do something sort of similar to either figure out the market direction, sentiment, technical patterns, and then extract the most yield from that to their benefit. Pretty simple. Everybody gets that. But the way we look at it too, what's in the market and the signal you get from the market is either an open bid where somebody's saying, I'm going to buy or sell, at this point, and then so you have an offer, an ask, and then a bid. And so you want to look at what the asks are and then see what the bid patterns look like and understand how far of a gap that is, where it's likely to intersect, because when a bid meets an ask, that's when you have a sale, especially in an efficient market. And there's a bunch of things that go on with crypto that don't necessarily happen as on Wall Street, in the equities markets or the derivatives markets, where uh, crypto right now is filled with these ways of decoying positions. So people will open up fake positions. The market will chase them. They'll take them off the market. They'll withdraw them, essentially manipulating the market up or down. That would probably get you an orange jumpsuit if you did it in equities markets. But right now, it seems to be perfectly acceptable in the crypto markets. So it's more of a less rules around what's going on, and it opens the door for a lot of market manipulation. So trying to figure out what's real and what's not is another layer to this that isn't necessarily supposed to exist. It does, and they hide it well in the Wall Street world. But you're dealing with that now. The signal that you get are those things. So the prelude to a trade in those types of conditions are those bids and asks, right? So you're sort of projecting like, this is where I'll meet you to buy, this is where I'll meet you to sell, and that's sort of what somebody has to take to get things in the market. What we do here, were you going to say something, Serge?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah. So what we do here is we combine a signal that exists prior to that. So alpha, if you will. So you've heard the term alpha. In this case, it's true alpha. We're using people and the way they view the market to understand if they think things are too high or too low, and without paying to do it. And because they don't have to pay to do it, they're more likely to give it to you, there's less of a cost. Now, it also means in many of the cases, the signal's not quite as good, because if you don't have to put your money up, it doesn't cost you as much to do it. And some people are going to treat that as a throwaway, right? Like, oh, whatever, I'm just gaming, I'm just playing games here. But some people are really good at it, and some people like to win. So some people are doing it not for just money, but for pride and for recognition. Some people are doing it to test themselves at how good they are at reading the market. And what we've done is open up another layer that exists prior to things getting onto the market, where it's a way to source a signal that isn't yet present. And when you look at kind of why that works, it gives you a signal that somebody doesn't essentially have to tie up a bunch of capital to do. So from that big pool of signal that we have, we whittle it down and understand who's really performing really well, who tends to do really well by not identifying them, but paying attention to the wallets that are actually performing the transactions. And we can say, okay, this group of well-performing traders outperforms the market recently at this clip. So we could say with a certain degree of confidence that we can predict which way the next part of the market's going to go from that signal. And when you bump it up against all these competing AI models, you combine the two, our reach shows that we routinely outperform raw AI and other models by 23% right now. And we use that signal as a way to transact our own treasury, which the game's surge is going to be tied into. And then we're going to be able to offer products to be able to share that back with other folks. But most importantly, what we do is to put our money where our mouth is. When this token launches every 90 days, we are going to take 25% of our gains and then turn around, buy our token off the market and burn it to prove that that's how much the people signal is worth. So there'll be a running record of what's going on. And obviously that deflates the token supply, which means when you deflate the token supply, you make it more scarce, essentially less FIDE out there to transact. And by doing it, it doesn't just drive the value of the token up, right? What it also does, it means you have to think more and come up with better and more strategies to be, because if you want to acquire an asset that's increasing in value and decreasing in supply, you have to come up with more, better, and clever ways to do it. So it's a self-improving system as it goes. And that's the first time in public we've ever actually explained the token mechanism that works and why it works, right? That's there not just for the benefit of our community, but that's also out there to protect ourselves so that when people come and say it's speculation. No. This is a proof of how much the people signal combined with AI is worth. And we're part of this ongoing global experiment to show people and prove to them people plus AI can give you a yield. So I know that was a bit of a rant, but I would hope that that's a good opening primer on kind of what we're doing and why we're trying to do it, right? Anything to add on that, Romy?
I just thought, just to maybe summarize the great in-depth explanation you gave there, but am I right if I summarize it as you're taking your already advanced AI models and you're pairing that with the best performers within the games and the signal that then they're providing you to then get a ultimate signal powered by both AI and the best performing humans within the FIDE games?
That's right. That's exactly it. And then they're the most likely to win and accrue more FIDE. And then by doing so, there's a lot of upside for them to keep trying to play. So you're incentivizing the best people to keep trying. And it's going, as the competition moves into the future, that's why it's important to try to get your hands on some FIDE early on so that you could be in that game. But as the thing goes on and sort of the FIDE coalesces into the hands of the best performers, it's increasing in value and they're competing against each other to get more and more of it. So we're setting up a marketplace for competing with AI, and that feeds into a bunch of other plans we have for the token on the other side of it. But if you just want to participate and sit back and watch it work, then as soon as it becomes available, you just buy FIDE and hold it. And that's why it's you. But if you want to try to get more of it through your own, so there's a couple ways to get it, right? You could buy it, or you can earn it through these games by playing a little bit and then getting an outsized return. For instance, we had somebody in one of the games yesterday or the day before, they had a 2400x return on one of their games. And we saw Matt, I think you pointed it out, Matt Cross had a 458x like just yesterday. So
crazy. In 1 minute. It's not
yeah.
bad.
Yeah, it's not bad for a minute's work.
Not
you
bad.
But if you can get those kind of returns, it's, I think, worth it. it's also a fair way for people to get involved with both the asset of Bitcoin or whatever ETH or Doge or whatever game is going to be there. We're obviously starting with BTC, but we plan to roll it out, and then you'll get exposure to equities and then probably commodities soon after that. So we see it as a global way to combine people plus AI, and then get yield for people either holding it or competing for it. So yeah.
Yeah. I guess I just want to add to that like, you know, in markets and, you know, having worked, you know, at a company that had trading desks and OTC desks, that there is that sort of human competitive component to traders, and working sort of across other firms. So I think the gamified experience really mimics that, right? You're playing a game, but you're also kind of like in a mimic environment where you're managing your own little personal P&L, much like a trader does for an investment banking firm. So there's that sort of element that sort of emulates that human behavior that really happens in the markets. And then just underscoring like, okay, well, what's in it for me? I'm helping you guys with this model. What's in it for everybody is everybody shares in the success of this deflationary FIDE. So as it grows, everyone gets more wealthy.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And so the earlier people get rewarded to the greater, to a greater degree. It's one of those things where if you don't if you don't hold on to it in the beginning, that's on you. I understand the way crypto has treated people recently. There's a bunch of people that can't wait to dump at the beginning. Not that we have too much out there to dump, but if they do, it's not like we didn't tell you what we were going to do with it. So, I'm not going to get up here and be like, don't do it, because people are going to. But when those people do that, I'm going to link to this episode and remind people that we told them so. And it's not this isn't the first time, right?
I'm gonna be like Willy Wonka with like Augustus drinking the chocolate. Stop! No danger! No, don't do that.
yeah, exactly. But it's okay. The great thing about math and cryptocurrency is that it does solve for the sort of flaws in human nature to some degree, right? And if we write better contracts and have better terms, it takes the human element out of it more. So instead of people gambling and relying on untrustworthy actors, you just get better terms to your contract and you act according to the terms of the contract. And that's the promise of smart contracts.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
you can't do anything but say, hey, we're going to do this. And then, hey, I told you so. And then, that's just the way it's got to work. But I'm more so looking forward to sort of the people that stick with us. And we have a great community. And actually, we've been introduced to a great community on the Doge OS side. The Doge community has been a perfect fit. And I've been super impressed with the way they sort of like melded together, that I feel like this is the right group of people. And it's also going to be hilarious as we start to eat into the equities markets and bring it back over to our side of the fence, so that everybody can see that you don't have to wear a tie to succeed in financial markets. I can do it from my cartoon underwear, which I don't wear roaming during these things at all, ever. I'm fully pantsed up. I just wanted to let you know.
I do.
Yeah,
I do it, and I don't have sleeves.
That's right. You are not wearing sleeves today. That's actually a fact.
That's right.
I just saw you on a video call just prior to this, and you were not wearing sleeves.
That's right.
Yeah. So like we can actually do this together, have fun doing it. I know we typically have been taking a lot of questions, but I thought it was important for us to get the understanding out there of how this works and why it works, and why we're not just blindly trusting everybody doing it, but opening up a game for the best competitors to give us the best proof that they have the best signal, and then combining that with the best of research and AI, and then executing it, right? So it's one of those things where, you might have a great record in trading, Wall Street guy, but if I have 100,000 people all competing for something really hard, I bet you from that signal, I can find a signal that consistently outperforms you, even if you are one of the best individual traders on the market, that our wisdom of crowds distilled through this lens can outcompete you. And research in a bunch of different fields of study show that that's true. So, anyway, I hope everybody gets something out of that, and I hope everybody has a great weekend and comes back and sees us next Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, which is maybe the first time I've ever got that on the first try. And thanks a lot, everybody. Be safe over the weekend. Also, I just want to let you know, just before we get off, that position has not yet been liquidated, and the price is back up to 106, 174. So they got a little bit of breathing room, but I'm still watching it and hoping to some degree that they learn their lesson. So thanks a lot for everybody joining us. Great to be with you and great to see you on the next one. Looking forward to it. Take care, everybody.
Bye.